The sky was burning above the dead battlefield. Smoke and fire covered the broken land, old ships, tanks, and bodies were scattered like toys left behind in a child's nightmare. Private James Carter walked slowly through the ruins, his boots crushed. Metal and dust under every step. His rifle was ready, shaking slightly in his hands. He was the only one left from his squad. They were ambushed by alien soldiers just hours ago. Everyone else was dead. James was tired, hurt, and angry. He had one mission now: survive. The air was hot and smelled like smoke and blood. The red sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the battlefield. He moved past a half-destroyed transport ship. Then he heard something, a soft sound like breathing. He stopped, aimed his gun toward the sound. There was a movement. Behind a pile of burned metal, James narrowed his eyes, ready to shoot. Then she appeared, an alien soldier. Her armor was damaged and glowing with blue light. She was tall, with silver skin marked by strange tattoos. Her long white hair was wet with blood and sweat, but she didn't look afraid. Instead of fighting, she slowly raised her hands. Then, to his surprise, she dropped to her knees. James froze. This didn't make sense. Alien soldiers never surrendered. They were strong, brutal, and loyal to the end. But this one... She looked broken. Her voice came softly, shaking with pain. "Don't kill me, human. I'll warm your bed." James blinked, not sure if he heard that right. Was she trying to trick him? What kind of trap was this? Or was this a joke in her language? She looked up at him, her eyes a deep purple, glowing slightly in the smoke-filled air. They didn't look afraid. But there was something else, something he couldn't understand. He stepped closer, slowly, his gun still pointed at her head. "Why should I trust you?" he asked. The alien didn't answer. She lowered her head, as if ready to die. James looked around. It was quiet now, too quiet. He turned on his comms, but there was only static, no orders, no backup. Just him and the alien, alone, he thought. About killing her, ending it now before she did something dangerous. But something inside him stopped his finger. Maybe it was her voice, or her eyes. Maybe it was the fact that she could have attacked him, but didn't. He finally said, "Get up." She didn't move. He stepped closer, gun shaking slightly. "I said, get up," he repeated. Slowly she stood, raising her hands higher. Her body was shaking, either from pain or fear, or both. He walked behind her, tied her hands with cable from his pack. Suddenly, a soft beep came from her belt. James stepped back quickly, gun raised again. "What is that?" he shouted. She looked down, surprised. I don't know," she said. A small light glowed under her armor, near her neck. James noticed it. A blinking red dot, pulsing faster, without thinking. He pulled a small scanner from his bag and held it near the light. It was an alien device. Something unknown, but the scanner gave a simple message. "Energy pulse building. Unknown signal detected." James stared at the screen, then at the alien woman. "What the hell are you?" he asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "I am not your enemy," she whispered. "They are coming. And not just for me." Before he could ask more, the ground shook. Far away, something exploded. Then another sound came, a deep humming. Like a ship approaching fast. James knew he didn't have time. He grabbed the alien's arm and pulled her forward. "Move," he said. They ran together through the smoke and ash. One human, one alien, one holding a gun, the other holding secrets, and high above them, in the clouds, a shadow passed. Long, dark, and silent. Something else was watching. Something that was never supposed to be there. Asterisk. The first thing she did in the prison cell, ... was nothing. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't even speak. She just sat down in the corner, like a shadow that didn't belong there. Private James Carter watched her through the thick glass. She hadn't moved for 3 hours. She didn't ask for food, water, or a medic. She just stared at the wall, like she was waiting for something, ... Or someone. "She's not like the others," said Sergeant Lee, standing next to him. She's too calm, too quiet, James nodded. Slowly, but didn't answer. He couldn't stop thinking about her words from the battlefield. Don't kill me, human. I'll warm your bed. It kept echoing in his mind, soft, strange, and confusing. Was it a lie? A cultural phrase? Or something deeper? In the med bay, the scans showed her body was healing fast, too fast. No food, no sleep, no medicine. And yet her injuries were disappearing. The doctors were puzzled. Her blood was cold. Her cells moved like fire. Alien tech was hidden inside her body. Wires thinner than hair, glowing under her skin. But she had no weapons, no armor now, just a gray prison suit and a look in her eyes that made soldiers uncomfortable. James tried to talk to her the next morning. He walked into the cell, alone, holding a tray of food. She looked up, her eyes calm but sharp. I brought you something, he said, placing the tray on the table. She didn't touch it. What, not hungry? He asked. She shook her head slowly. Your food smells like poison, she said softly. James laughed nervously. It's not poison, it's just ... Military lunch. She didn't smile. He sat down across from her, watching. You didn't sleep either, he said. I don't need sleep, she replied. He frowned. Then what do you need? She looked at him, and for the first time, her voice had emotion. Sadness. Time, she whispered. And silence. James didn't understand, but something about her tone made him stop asking. That night, something strange happened. James had a dream, no, more like a memory, but not his own. He was standing in a field of red grass, under a sky with 3 moons. He heard screams, saw a great battle, and in the center, her, the alien woman, glowing like a star, her armor shining. She was not kneeling then. She was leading. James woke up with sweat on his neck, heart beating fast. He rushed to the control room and pulled up her file. No name, no rank, no records. Just one word. Unknown. In the security room, the guards were talking. She talks to herself, one said. No, I think she's singing, said another. But not in any language we know. They showed the audio. It wasn't singing. It was more like calling, a soft melody that moved through the walls, like a whisper underwater. James played the audio in his room that night. He didn't understand the words, but the sound made him feel cold and warm at the same time, like a memory trying to wake up inside him. The next day, she still hadn't eaten. Her body was fine, her eyes clearer than ever. And then she finally spoke again. You dreamt of my home, she said without looking at him. James froze. How do you know that? He asked. I saw it in your face, she replied. You remember things that were never yours before he could speak again. The lights in the prison flickered. For a moment, everything went dark. Then came a whisper through the speakers, a voice. Not hers, not human. She must not survive. It said, end the signal. Alarms started ringing across the base. Systems shutting down one by one. James looked at her. She was still calm, still silent, but her eyes glowed brighter than ever before. She whispered, almost like a prayer. They found me. At 2:13 a.m., James Carter woke up to the sound of breathing. Not his own. It was quiet, just behind his ear. Slow, soft, and too close. He jumped up from his bunk, reaching for the pistol under his pillow, but no one was there. The room was dark, silent again. He touched his face, his arms, made sure he was awake. Then the whisper came. From the far corner of the room, she is not what she seems. He turned on the lights. Heart pounding, empty, just his gear, some tools, the old photo of his brother, nothing else. No speakers were on, no messages from command, still. Words echoed in his mind like a song he couldn't forget. The alien prisoner had not moved from her cell. The cameras showed her sitting still, hands folded, eyes closed, like she had been meditating all night. But something about her had changed. James felt it the moment he walked past the observation glass. The air felt thicker, like the room itself was holding its breath. He stared at her, and she opened her eyes slowly. "You heard it, didn't you?" she said without moving. James nodded, unsure how she knew. "They speak through the dark," she whispered. "They don't use doors. They don't need machines." "Who?" he asked. She looked away. "The ones who created war before peace ever existed." James felt like she was talking in riddles, but something inside him knew it wasn't nonsense. It was fear wrapped in calm words. He checked the security system logs. No one had entered his room. No signal had been sent. Yet the voice had come, and now it wouldn't leave his head. Later that day, something happened to the other prisoners. One by one, they started shaking, sweating, whispering strange words. Aliens and humans both. Some screamed in languages no one understood. Others fell silent forever, as if something had erased their minds. Doctors were called, but they found nothing. Command ordered the base into partial lockdown. James was told to stay away from the alien woman, but he didn't. He visited her again, this time with questions. "What are you doing to the others?" he asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "Not me," she said. "It's the shadows I ran from." He leaned closer, whispering now. "Why are they after you?" She answered without blinking. "Because I left the hive." James frowned. "Hive? You mean like insects?" She shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "Like thought, like memory, like one mind, many bodies." His skin went cold. "You were part of them?" "Yes," she said. "But I chose to be alone, and now I'm a crack in their wall." That night, more systems failed. The lights flickered across the base. Doors opened by themselves. Cameras showed shadows moving where no one was standing. Engineers found wires melted, screens cracked without touch, and always, the whispers. Some soldiers reported hearing their own names being called. Others claimed to see their dead family members walking through the halls. It wasn't madness. It was something else, like reality bending just a little. James couldn't sleep. When he closed his eyes, he saw red grass, purple skies, the alien woman standing in a storm of light. Every time she looked at him, he felt like he had known her before, in a life he never lived. He returned to her cell one last time. That night, she was waiting, as if she knew he would come. "They're almost here," she said. He swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "We remember," she said, "and we choose." James didn't understand what that meant, but suddenly, the lights went black. Alarms screamed, and the whole base shook. Something had arrived, and it wasn't human. Before Earth ever knew her name, she had already walked on its soil, not in war, not in peace, but in silence. It was not the first contact. It was just the first time someone finally noticed. James Carter didn't remember falling asleep. He only remembered opening his eyes and finding himself on another world. But it wasn't a dream. He could smell the air, sweet and sharp. Like metal and flowers, the sky was gold, the ground soft under his boots. He turned and saw her. She wasn't in a prison suit. She wore dark armor with glowing lines, like veins made of fire. A crown of glass sat on her head, broken at one side. She walked toward him barefoot, and the ground lit up with each step. "You were here before," she said. James shook his head, confused. "No, I wasn't." She stopped, her eyes full of sorrow. "Then why do you remember the trees when I haven't spoken of them yet?" He looked around. There were trees, tall, blue, and silent, but he didn't know how he knew they were called Ozrel. It just felt true, like a memory he never lived. James woke up gasping, back in the base. His hands were shaking, his heart beat loud in his ears. It was morning, or what passed for morning in space. He rushed to the control room and accessed hidden logs from years ago. Logs not meant for soldiers like him. He used her prisoner code and something unlocked. An old file labeled Echo Protocol. It began with a photo, grainy, dark, but clear enough. An alien ship hovering near Earth's orbit. Date: 17 years ago. It was the same design as hers. Then a video file, black and white, no sound. It showed her walking across a desert, near a crashed satellite. No army, no weapons, just her and a wounded human pilot. She helped him walk. She disappeared before rescue arrived. James leaned back in the chair, breath caught in his chest. She had been here, before the war, before everything, and they had hidden it. He went to her cell again. She didn't look surprised to see him. "You found the file," she said. He nodded. "Why didn't anyone tell us?" He asked. She looked away. "Because peace is not profitable." James sat down, trying to understand. "You helped one of us." "I helped many," she said. "But one of them ... chose war instead of truth." Her voice cracked a little at the end, and for the first time James saw it. Not a soldier, not an alien, but someone tired of carrying pain alone. She reached under her prison collar and pulled out a small stone. Glowing faintly, "This is what they fear," she whispered. James took it carefully. It was warm, like skin. "What is it?" "Memory," she replied. "Mine, yours, and those they tried to erase." That night, James plugged the stone into a secure lab scanner. Images filled the screen. Stars, battles, faces. Then, Earth, not as it is, but as it could have been. Clean skies, new cities, humans and aliens living side by side. No borders, no greed, no lies. But the final image was different. A meeting room, 5 humans in black suits. And her, unarmed, offering peace. They declined, they told her. Earth is not ready. Then they called her a threat. The war started 6 months later. James sat in silence. The truth was heavy, but now it was his. And maybe that's why he heard it again. That same whisper in the dark. Not from her, but from the base itself. "You should not have seen this." Lights flickered, power surged, alarms rang. But James didn't flinch. He ran to her cell, opened it without asking. She stood there waiting. "I remember everything now," he said. Her eyes lit up softly. "Then you know why they'll come. For you next." Outside, the sky cracked open with thunder that didn't come from clouds. The escape didn't begin with a plan. It began with a heartbeat, not his, hers. James Carter didn't hear it with his ears. He felt it like a drum beneath the floor, slow, deep, and getting louder. He was standing in the hallway just outside her cell when it started. Everything else was silent. No alarms, no guards, no orders. Then came the tremor, not from outside, but inside the base. Like something massive had just moved beneath their feet. She stood in the middle of her cell. Eyes closed, breathing steady, but James could see it. Her skin was glowing slightly. Her hands were warm against the glass, and her fingers left faint prints of light behind. "She's waking something up," said the voice in his ear. It was control. Panicked, confused. "Fall back immediately, that's an order." But James didn't move. Because she wasn't a threat, she was a warning. And something else was the real danger. He opened the cell. She didn't look at him, just whispered, "They're inside now." A loud snap echoed through the hallway. The lights went black, and the backup generators failed within seconds. Screams erupted across the base, not of pain, but confusion. Doors were locking by themselves, some melting shut, others flying open with wind that wasn't air. James grabbed her arm. "We have to go," he said. She nodded. "No more cages." They ran together through the dark. The walls whispered as they passed, words in no human language. Behind them, a soldier stood frozen, staring into a screen. Filled with static, he didn't blink, didn't breathe, just smiled at nothing in the weapons room. James found a sidearm. He handed her one, but she shook her head. "My hands are already full," she said softly. And when she moved past the door, it opened by itself. No key, no code, just her. She led him to a sealed sector of the base. A place marked Restricted Experimental Tech. James had never been allowed here before. "Why here?" he asked. "This is where they buried the past," she said. Inside, the air was colder, the light more blue than white. Machines stood half-finished, some alive, some clearly dead. In the center was a capsule, long, dark, and humming quietly. She placed her hand on it, and it opened like a flower. "Get in," she told him. He frowned. "What is this?" "Not a weapon," she said. "A way out." He stepped inside, unsure but trusting her now. She stepped in beside him. The door closed with a hiss. For a second, there was nothing. Then the floor disappeared. They weren't falling. They were flying, but not through space, through memory. James saw flashes, Earth as it once was, alien cities floating in skies, human and alien hands building together. He saw betrayal, lies, explosions. And the moment peace was stolen in a boardroom, not a battlefield. He saw her standing alone, watching it all, carrying guilt that was never hers. The capsule opened, but not where they started. They were underground, miles below the base. A secret chamber filled with soft blue light and walls covered in symbols James somehow understood. "Where are we?" he asked, breathless. She stepped forward, touching the symbols. "This is the original landing site," she said, "where the first of my kind came. And where I chose to become more than one of them." Above them, the base was in chaos. Soldiers trapped, systems broken, a voice in every speaker whispering truths they were never meant to hear. And in the middle of it all, James Carter and the alien they called a prisoner. Now fugitives, now something more. "This was never just escape," he said. She looked at him, eyes glowing. "No," she replied. "This is the beginning of war's final chapter." And then the walls around them opened, revealing a hidden path that had waited for 17 years to be walked again. Asterisk, it started with a lie told before he was even born. Not to the world, not to the army, but to him. A lie buried so deep inside his blood that even he couldn't hear it, until now. James Carter stood in the ancient chamber, the walls humming with symbols that felt like they were calling his name. Not the name given by his parents, not the one on his soldier tag, something older. Something that didn't belong to Earth. The alien woman walked ahead of him, her fingers gliding along glowing lines carved into stone. Each line lit up with her touch, like veins filled with memory. "This is what they never wanted you to see," she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber like music made of dust and time. James didn't ask questions anymore. He only listened because deep down, something inside him already knew. At the center of the room was a pillar, smooth, silver, pulsing with a soft heartbeat-like rhythm. She placed her palm on it, and the room shifted. The walls unfolded, revealing screens, not digital, not human-made. They were living, and they began to show him. Project Phoenix files appeared, not words, but visions, Earth decades ago. A secret council of scientists and leaders watching alien DN under a microscope. They were not scared, they were excited. "Mix it," one of them said. "Let's build something better," said another. Then came faces, children, dozens of them, growing up in labs, monitored, tested, pushed beyond human limits. James saw his own face, younger, frightened. Running down a hallway, he saw a doctor whispering, "He's the stable one." He saw memories that were not dreams, surgeries, injections, strange voices speaking in languages he never learned, but somehow understood. He turned to her, heart racing. "What am I?" Her eyes softened, not with fear, but with truth. "You are both," she said. A bridge they built without knowing which side it would collapse on. James backed away from the screen. He felt sick, like the ground was no longer real beneath him. All this time, "I was their experiment. You were their hope," she said gently. But hope can be twisted into weapons when placed in the wrong hands. Outside the chamber, the war wasn't stopping. The base above had gone dark, no communication. No orders. Other alien species had arrived, not hers, not friendly. Hunters, drawn by the signal, by the energy released when James and she touched the truth. A loud sound echoed from the tunnel behind them, a deep growl. Mechanical and wet, she turned quickly, her body glowing brighter now. "They're here," she said. James raised his weapon, even though he didn't know if it would help. "What do they want?" he asked. She didn't blink. "They want to erase the memory." 3 shapes appeared at the end of the corridor, tall, armored, eyes burning like white fire. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. James fired. The bullets passed through like smoke. Then the alien woman stepped forward. Her voice rising, she spoke one word. The walls pulsed with light. The creatures froze, then screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. They couldn't see her. They couldn't touch her, because she was part of something older, something they had betrayed. The creatures faded back into the dark. James stared at her, stunned. "How did you do that?" She turned to him slowly. "You're not the only one who was built for something." She reached for his hand, and for the first time, their palms met skin to skin. A rush of memory flooded them both. Planets, stars, a child made of light, a promise that was never kept. Then silence. "I don't know who I am anymore," James whispered. "You're not meant to follow orders anymore," she said. "You're meant to break them." Far above, the enemy ships had begun to descend. Earth's defense systems were offline. The skies turning red with warning. But in the chamber below, a new signal had started. Not a cry for help, not a weapon, but a call, ancient, powerful, and awake. And James Carter was no longer just human. It began with silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. The kind that waits before something breaks. James Carter stood under a sky he didn't recognize anymore. The stars looked the same, but they felt different now, colder, louder. Watching, he and the alien woman stood at the edge of an ancient valley, hidden beneath the Earth's skin for centuries. Above them, the world was ready to burn. Warships from both sides floated in low orbit, their engines humming like predators circling prey. In his hand, James held the memory stone. Warm, alive, glowing softly like it had a pulse. Inside it was everything. The truth, the lies, the choice. If he released it now, the entire network would see it. The human leaders, the soldiers, the rebels, the aliens, everyone. The woman beside him, the one who had once knelt in chains, now stood tall like a queen of forgotten stars. But her eyes, they held pain, not fear, not doubt, just pain. "You have to decide," she said. James looked at her, jaw tight. "If I do this," he said, "they'll call me a traitor." She nodded. "But you'll be telling the truth." Behind them, deep inside the ruins, the ancient machine hummed louder. It had waited a long time to wake, longer than any government, longer than any war. James thought about everything. His squad, dead in a pointless battle. The commanders who knew more than they said. The voice in the dark that whispered who he really was. And her, the enemy he was supposed to kill, who instead opened a door inside him that he didn't know was there. He stepped forward, placed the memory stone into the center of the machine. It clicked into place. The machine spoke in a language older than planets. The message was ready at that same moment. Alarms began to scream across every Earth command center. Unauthorized signal detected. Origin, deep Earth. Target, entire military net, civilian feeds, and orbital comms. They tried to shut it down. They failed. The truth played everywhere. The first contact that was hidden, the children experimented on, the secret Project Phoenix, the betrayal of peace. People froze in front of screens. Some cried, some broke their screens, some simply stared, finally understanding that the war had never been about defense. It was about control, and control was slipping through their hands like dust in the wind. James felt the weight lift off his chest. But only for a moment, because now the consequences had arrived. The skies split open. Enemy dropships descended, not hers. The real enemies, the ones who fed on silence and shadows. They had no faces, no names, only hunger. They were never part of the deal. The humans were too divided to stop them. But James and the alien woman stood ready. She turned to him. "You can go back," she said. "Take your freedom, disappear." James shook his head. "No," he said. "You showed me the truth. Now I fight for it, side by side." They walked out of the ruins. The stars above began to shift, as if making room for something new. Behind them, the machine still pulsed, sending waves of memory into space, not as weapons, but as warnings, as hope. And somewhere far beyond the solar system, another light blinked in response. They were not alone anymore, and this time, they wouldn't. "Kneel,"